Throughout my life, I've had many unhealthy relationships, including friends who would treat me like I was an idiot or would dismiss my feelings or my thoughts. And I even fell into a narcissistic relationship for over a year. I want to tell you about what I think is the one lesson lying underneath all of these unhealthy relationships that I went through. Sort of the principal red flag lying beneath all of these experiences. And it has to do with the idea of caring. So people typically think of caring as just a feeling, like, someone cares for you. But they don't think of it in terms of having anything to do with any necessary action. Like, for instance, lots of people have their friends run them down, tell jokes at their expense, not show any real interest in their lives or their emotions or what they have to say. Yet at the same time, they're sort of thought of as caring for them. They're thought of as friends. Typically, people sort of brush off all the experiences they have with someone as unimportant. Sure, they joke around like that, but, that's who they are. Or deep down, they really do care about me, and that's just the way that they show their care. Or they're just repressed, and they don't know how to show love, but deep down, I know they love me. But the thing is all these excuses are excusing the way that they're treating you, the way that they're acting, the way they show that care for you. And that's exactly what I learned, is that caring isn't just a feeling. It's not just something that someone feels for you, but it has to be seen as an action. And so the red flag I would say to be looking for is whether or not they care. So you would see this in instances like if you come to tell them, I haven't appreciated the way you've been treating me recently. And instead of showing care and concern of like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do whatever it is that I did. What did I do? I care about you. I'm concerned. If they don't show it in emotional terms and in action, there's something wrong. And you can see the way that most people behave and respond to a situation like that is they'd get defensive. They'd blame you and they'd say, oh, it's your fault because of the way you behaved. Or they'd say, well, it's not that big of a deal. What are you getting so upset about? You're just touchy. You're just too sensitive. You need to grow thicker skin. There's some sort of excuse as to why they're not caring for you, why they're not actually treating you as if they care for you. The thing that's missing is caring. You need to be looking for whether or not they actually care for you in terms of action as well as emotion. Every emotion we have implies an action. Like if you love someone, it's not just going to be in your head. You're not just going to be sitting back and saying, oh yes, dear, I love you, but not actually do anything about it. Not actually show that love that you feel for them in any way. You're just going to sit there and do nothing, yet claim that you love someone. That doesn't even make sense. Emotions imply an action. So if you love someone, you're going to do something about it. Even if the love isn't reciprocated, if that is unrequited love, you're still going to feel, pain. You're going to maybe not want to be around that person because it just makes you feel, that unrequited love. It makes you feel painful. Every single emotion, no matter what happens with that emotion, you're going to feel it and you're going to act accordingly. If you hate someone, you're going to not want to be around that person because you hate them. And the reason this is because what lies beyond the emotion is an evaluation. You're evaluating someone as either being good or bad, or a value to you or not a value. So if you care for someone, it's because you've seen value in them. You've seen that you like their sense of humor, you enjoy their company, they're kind, they're interested in similar things that you're interested in. There's something about them that you find valuable, that you find a connection in. So in other words, if you see them as valuable, you're going to care for them in some way, whether that's a friendship or a romantic partner. You see them as valuable. That's going to show up as an emotional response, as you care for them. You feel good when you see them. You feel good when you hang out with them. So if you see them as a value, then that means you're going to have an appropriate emotional response, which is caring. So I have to do this bit as voiceover because I didn't do that good of a job the first time. So you're going to evaluate someone as either basically good or bad. You're going to like qualities about them, and that evaluation is going to show up as an emotion. You're going to like them or hate them. And given that you feel a certain way about them, you love them or hate them, you're going to act on it. If you love them, you're going to want to spend time with them. You're going to try and take care of them when they're sick. You're going to try and talk to them and ask how they're doing, ask how they're feeling. You're going to act on how you feel about them, and that feeling comes from an evaluation. So this means you can't parse these things out. You can't just have an emotion floating, like, oh, they care about me, or I care about them, and yet at the same time, I show zero interest in them as a person. That just doesn't make sense. Because if you do care about them, it's because you've evaluated them as good and valuable in some way, which means you care about them, which means you're going to want to spend time with them or show them respect or be interested in who they are as people at least. And of course the same thing goes for a negative. If you don't like them, it means that you've evaluated them as harmful to your life. They're rude to you, they don't respect you, they don't treat you well. So that means you are going to see them as a disvalue, as someone you don't want to be around. You're gonna hate them. You're gonna not like them, whatever it might be. And then appropriately, you're gonna want to put distance between you and them. You're gonna want to not have them in your life. So something that you want to be looking for is one of those two things. You're gonna want to see that emotion as well as the action. You're going to want to see the harmony between those two things in your interactions. You can't just look for them to tell you, oh, I care about you. So in many relationships, what we commonly see is that they'll tell us, oh, I care about you, or they'll put in some level of action of caring about you. They'll spend time with you, or they'll talk with you, or they'll joke around with you. But then there will be moments where you'll probably feel hurt by something. Maybe they won't show any interest in your feelings. You'll tell them, boy, I had a really bad day. And they'll say, oh, okay. And then maybe just move on and not really ask about how you're doing and not really inquire, which will make you feel invisible. Or they'll tell jokes at your expense, or they'll just, ignore you at times, or they'll show up late to occasions to hang out, which is just really disrespectful of your time. So there's all sorts of instances where you'd feel sort of a conflict between what they say or what you believe they feel toward you and what they actually end up doing. And so the thing to be looking for is consistency between those two things. So you want to be looking for whether they actually care for you, and you want to see that in action as well. So usually how you see it is that you can see the emotion of care for you in some degree. They say it, or you can see it just in the way that they respond when they see you. And you usually don't see it in the action whenever there's this kind of problem. Rarely do you see it the other way around. Rarely do you see it as, the action of caring without the real emotion. But that's someone who's a real manipulator. And in my 1-year relationship with a narcissist, I did encounter that. And it's kind of hard to put into words, but when she wasn't being very abusive, she was being kind of attentive in a sort of fake way. I didn't really see it at the time, but looking back, knowing what I know now, to look for caring in terms of emotion and action, I think I would have been able to see that this person's showing interest in me, but without any real emotion behind it. And at the time, I dismissed it, in the same way that people dismiss the physical. If they dismiss the physical lack of care, if someone doesn't respect my time or doesn't respect me as a person or whatever it might be, people dismiss it and say, oh, well, that's just the way that they show affection, or that's just their way of caring, or oh, that's just their way of joking around. I dismiss the lack of emotion from this person. And because of that, I fell into the same trap of not seeing the red flag, which is something, some level of care, of concern for me, or of interest in me, of caring for me, was missing from these two elements. And you've got to see care in both of those areas of emotion and action. And if you don't, that is a red flag. Something's wrong, something's missing. One thing I want to mention real quickly is repression. Repression is very common. It's very common in the world. So repression would show up as, this person has an evaluation of you as being good. They care for you, which is the emotion. But then the repression stops that emotion from really being felt by this other person, and as a consequence, they can't then act on it. So your time with them is going to be very muted. You're not really going to show concern for you. It's going to be very buried. It's going to be repressed. But the thing is, that's still a problem. That's still a problem for you, for the relationship, for any kind of experience you're going to have with this person. It's still not something to just dismiss, because you're still not getting what a relationship should be offering you, which is a level of visibility, a level of care from this other person. I mean, that's what a relationship is. It's a relationship of something, of love, of affection, of mutual admiration, whatever that relationship might be. It has to be both ways. But the main principle you need to be looking for is whether this person that you're in a relationship with does actually care for you. Because the thing is, why this is so important is because everyone's going to make mistakes. Everyone's going to, say the wrong thing and upset you. That messes up the relationship. Maybe they might do something pretty big that creates distance between the two of you. But if you look at it in this way, of looking for care, of looking for whether or not they actually care about you and want to put in the effort to the relationship, which would be showing the care, then you'll always be able to look past the immediate issue, the immediate problem, the immediate hurt of that situation, and see this person really does care for me. I told them, hey, what you did hurt me. Or, I didn't like the way you treated me the other day. And if they showed care emotionally, they got concerned, they were worried, they felt bad about what they did, and they showed a sense of concern for the fact that I was hurt. And then they acted to repair the damage. They gave me a hug, they said that they were sorry, then, over the coming weeks I saw a change. Whatever the situation might be, you want to see that care in the emotional terms, and you want to see the care in action. And with that, you're going to be so much safer from a manipulator who's going to tell you all the right things, but in action, not follow through, not actually do that. Whether it's, they'll tell you that they think very well of you, but at the same time, they don't actually treat you with respect in action, whether that's manipulating you in a workplace or manipulating you in a friendship. And the same goes for low investment friends who say, oh yeah, I love you, or I care about you so much, but at the same time, don't really show interest in you or your life. They're not particularly interested in how you're feeling or what your thoughts are or what your opinions are. They want you to come around, hang out with them, so that they won't be bored that day or whatever it is. With this in mind, with this lesson, with this sort of prime red flag, I think it can cover basically most situations, most contexts. And if you really look for that, I think you're going to be a lot more capable of protecting yourself from either people who just aren't good for you, aren't good to have in your life, or people who genuinely want to harm you, and finding the rare gems out there, the real wonderful people that you really want to have in your life, which are the people who really do care about you, who really are willing to invest in a relationship with you. Well, I hope you find this lesson helpful, because it's certainly been a lot of painful years for me to come to this point. But I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get a lot out of it. And if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on similar content. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks so much.